I'm Lenny Sanacola for World at Work TV. Today I am with Erin Siegrist and Diane Kupniewski from Erie Insurance Group, and we're discussing creating a vision health management strategy. What was your current strategy before you decided to create a new one?
So we weren't starting from scratch. We were fortunate to have guiding principles that had served us well through the 1980s, 90s, and into the 2000s. But because of all the dramatic changes in the landscape, healthcare reform, all of the things that are changing for us benefits professionals, it was time to refresh. And so we were able to take some of those guiding principles and weave them into our new strategy.
How did you go about crafting the vision?
We talked about what the optimal state would look like. We talked about what success would look like, and we reached out to consultant partners to help us through the process.
We did some surveys of employees, we researched best practices. We were really trying to get all of the different sources of data that we might to be able to boil down what we were really looking for. And that included some really interesting mining of our employee health plan data as well, to test if some of the perceptions we had of our health plan performance were true.
So what was the vision you landed on?
We landed on the vision of partnering with our employees to create and sustain a culture of health and wellness so that our employees and their families can live healthier, happier, and more productive lives, both at work and at home.
Now you had mentioned that you used some health data mining. Was there other feedback from other stakeholders or internal or external folks that you sought feedback from in creating this vision?
That was really important. It was really important for us to get the voice of the customer, to understand what all of our stakeholders were saying. So we were talking to the business, we were talking to other groups in HR, to say, to the board, to executive management, to test and say, this is our vision, and does this align with our business strategy? Does it align with our cultures and our values and our mission and our vision? And so it changed, and we had a couple of different iterations, but when we landed, we really had buy-in.
When you finally landed, how did you go about communicating this vision to your employees, all stakeholders?
We initially rolled it out at open enrollment, so that's a time where we kind of have a captive audience because everybody is interested to hear about what's changing with benefits. So we use that as an opportunity to get that vision out to all of our employees. We also have a situation where we have several field offices that we need to get information out to. So we conduct a road show where we're going out in person to each of those offices. So it gave us an opportunity to roll that out to those employees as well. And we continually use that message. So in every communication that we're sending out, we're trying to weave that in. So whether it's something that comes from us as an internal communication or a postcard that comes from one of our vendor partners, we really try to make sure that that message is in there.
And part of what goes along with that is to branding. So making sure that when people see materials from us, they know what it is, it's consistent, it's got the same look and feel, and something that the team has really emphasized in the last 2 years has been doing that for the family members as well. So when you have a health plan, it's not just for the employees, it's their spouses, same-sex domestic partners, children, and other dependents. And so that's a subgroup that we've really focused on and looked to see benefits from.
Sounds like branding was one of the objectives that you had perhaps in crafting the vision, to have a common brand that everyone could recognize. Other benefits that came out of this process in creating this new vision that you could share?
Since we've had the opportunity to test it with so many stakeholders, it really gave us an opportunity for us to know what the expectations were for us and kind of vice versa, what their expectations, what our expectations were for them. So what we're able to do is kind of closely align with all of those expectations from the board and executives, and then also let employees know the true reason why we do these changes. And it really is, that positive message of trying to get employees healthy.
I think there was a perception in the past that we do what we do in benefits to control costs, and we're fortunate that we work for a company that is not giving us a cost imperative. Cost is certainly important, and we need to be sound users of our fiduciary responsibilities, but the really important reason why we're here is to help people get healthy, and I think we all feel good about that. The board, executives all affirmed that, so we, as a kind of a byproduct, inherited some credibility from that, earned some credibility because the board understood where we were coming from, and we carry that forward. Every time we bring a recommendation, we remind them that our recommendations are fully aligned with the vision that they've signed on for.
Do you expect that this would be something you would review on an annual or frequent basis?
We rolled out our vision in 2013, and then we enhanced it for 2014. So it is something that we'll look at, probably at least every year or so to look at to make sure that we still are meeting expectations and that we are still right on goal where we want to be with it.
And as much as things change anymore, I don't think anything can remain static. So it's just like we test our guiding principles. We live by the golden rule at Erie Insurance, and so there are things that don't change that inform the things that do.
I'm curious, how long did it take you from the point you decided we needed to recraft a vision statement to actually rolling it out?
It was almost probably about a 6 to 9 month process. We were actually in the process on our business case and found ourselves floundering and saying, well, what should we do? So we were preparing our recommendations for 2013 and saying, I'm not certain where we want to land. Part of the reason why we landed where we did was because we all agreed we needed the values and the purpose behind what we were doing. And once we settled the vision, everything else afterwards became very common sense. It all made sense. If it didn't tie back to that vision, we weren't going to do it. So I think we kind of even fell into that as well, because we were in that business case. Sometimes we analyst types can get too heads down. You've got your data, the data should tell you everything, and what we found was we really needed to step back and say, this isn't starting with data, it's starting about our values and our purpose. And once we had that, it completely flowed naturally. After we had approval, it was probably about 2 months during which we built the communications campaign and then went out and delivered.
One final question, looking back, in hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently, either in going through the process of crafting it or in terms of deploying it? Any key learnings that you could share with our listeners?
I think one of the key learnings, and I know every member of the team appreciated, was being involved in the process from the beginning. So as Erin said, it kind of tied everything together for us. So it was kind of that confirmation of what we were doing made sense because it tied back to the vision. So I think one of the things I know the benefits team that worked on this was really appreciative of kind of knowing where we're starting, being involved in the process, and being a part of it along the way.
And I believe that we saw that with our other stakeholders as well, saying thank you for asking. So in the past, maybe materials have been brought forward and we weren't certain where they came from, why you were doing this. The transparency was appreciated a lot more than we ever anticipated it would have been.
Well, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks for having us.
For World at Work TV, I'm Lenny Sanacola.